at Uphill Running. There may be a few technical difficulties throughout the show, but that's fine. We're going to have Erin Knight speak tonight about nutrition. Her presentation is called Real Food for Busy Runners, and we will be going back and forth between a slideshow presentation that she has put together on a PowerPoint and watching her speak. There are plenty of ways to ask questions. You can call the shop, 425-391-2430. You can call my cell phone if you want, 425-777-0119. Feel free to send me a text message. There are other ways. If you click on the YouTube link, you'll be able to go to a chat room, and we will be monitoring it and asking questions. The event will last about an hour, and it will be posted later on to Uphill Running. So if you don't catch the whole program, there's nothing to worry about. With that, this is Erin, and see you later.
All right, thank you, Trey. Thanks for having me tonight. My class tonight is called Real Food for Busy Runners. My name's Erin Knight, as Trey mentioned, and I'm a health engineer. As a health engineer, I find solutions for people who are suffering the consequences of long-term stress. I'm an engineer by training, but also engineer by personality. I'm a dork, and I can't help it. And I like to apply those principles of root cause analysis and problem solving to people's health. Why do I do that, you might ask? Well, a couple of years ago, I crashed and burned, literally crashed and burned after a decade of overdoing it at work and at school. I was training for a PR and a half marathon, and I had a really emotional split with a good friend. All that led me to a point where I could barely get up off the couch to eat dinner, much less cook dinner. And I had been known as this Energizer bunny who was always wanting to go, go, and go. So it was really strange. After talking to a functional medicine practitioner, I realized that I had leaky gut from all the stress, which had led to a lot of food sensitivities, mono and Hashimoto's thyroid problems, all at the same time. And it's been a journey coming back from that, but getting my energy back and using only natural methods inspired me to pursue this and want to make a difference in other people's lives. So today I work one-on-one with people who are going through similar challenges and help them investigate the malfunctions and root causes for their symptoms, and recommend all natural protocols to strengthen their body's natural defenses and work on their immune system, hormone system, digestive system, and detoxification system. Now, in the process, I learned a lot about different kinds of diets, and I've tried lots of different diets, and I have a real passion for helping people who are on a path to health and want to eat better, because I realized that there aren't a lot of great resources out there for people who are really serious and committed and want to do better. So tonight's presentation is not to convince you to follow one diet or another, but rather to see what we can learn from some of the trends in pro athletes that are starting to eat better, and what we can do to apply it in our real life as, you know, busy runners, busy work, busy employees, busy moms, whatever. So what are you going to get out of this course? Well, I hope that you'll be inspired by all the pro athletes that are turning to real food and killing it on the real food diet. And I'm going to talk about why some people do well on a high-carb diet, whereas other people thrive on more of a high-fat, high-protein diet. Then I'll talk about how you can nourish your own recovery and performance eating real foods, and how to cook healthy meals at home despite your intense training schedule. Finally, I'll talk about some quick recipes for vegan, vegetarians, paleo, or anybody in between. Can you see the slides on here? I don't think so.
Oh, we're
some technical difficulties.
Still showing that slideshow.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Hey, come on.
Carry on.
So my
Yeah, you're good.
okay, we're good. My question for you guys is, what do vegan bodybuilder Jim Morris and primal ultramarathoner Dean Karnazes have in common? If you've ever looked at these guys, Jim Morris is, he's proud to be a vegan. He talks about it all the time, but he is ripped. He's not your stereotypical vegan at all. And then when you think of runners, you think of wispy, thin, vegan runners or vegetarian runners, and these things have become such a stereotype that when we see examples like this that have gone across the stereotype, it seems like a freak of nature. I think athletes are interesting case studies because they challenge their bodies in ways that we, as mere mortals, can't even imagine. And when they switch to real food diets and it works for them, that really tells you something. Also, when I was growing up in the 80s and the 90s, the thing to do as an athlete was to pound the protein powder or the Gatorade, and that was just the way it was. So now to see people switching over from those products, food-like products, to actual real food is really exciting. There we go. So the NBA is an interesting case study as well. Here, I think I figured out why it's not. Oh.
What was it?
Not working.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, the NBA is an interesting case study because, of all people, basketball players grew up eating garbage, basically. Tables full of pizza and Gatorade were just the norm. And in 2011, that started to shift when LA Clippers, Blake Griffin and Chris came, and they lived in California, so they were catching on to the whole paleo trend via Rob Wolf and everything like that. So they started to switch over to see if they could up their games. Now, Luis Scola is another story. He was 30. When you're 30 in the NBA, that means you've been pounding your body for at least a decade. And he was trying to come back from a knee injury after the lockout in 2011. And he had gained weight. He was 255 pounds. He had 12% body fat, and he just really wasn't feeling too hot. So he asked, he talked to his trainers, and they recommended that he try this anti-inflammatory diet, which is what they were calling it. It's really the paleo diet. And he he did that over the summer. He lost 20 pounds and was feeling great. And he talks about not only was he having more energy, but he was sleeping better, and his joints felt better. He felt stronger and looser and just ready to go, which, at 30, that's a good thing in the NBA. Next year, Derrick Rose was with the LA Lakers, and he is famous for his love of candy. Yeah. And so much so that Skittles sent him a personal machine for his house. And he was also having trouble with injuries when the now famous Kate Shanahan came in and overhauled not only his diet, but the diet of the whole LA Lakers, and put them on a ketogenic diet. And they were finding that they had much better injury recovery, and their joints were feeling better. I mean, frankly, they haven't played that well, but, they have had such great word of mouth that this is continuing to spread throughout the NBA. And now in 2013, we had then 38-year-old Ray Allen, which, again, think about how long he's been playing basketball and the damage he's done to his body. After the 2013 season, he was on anti-inflammatory drugs daily. He was living, but he was in pain all the time, and he just didn't feel good. So he also decided to try this as an anti-inflammatory measure. And when he cleaned up his diet, he not only lost a few pounds, but he didn't have to be on those drugs anymore. And so another great story for the industry. And then this year, it's been all over the news when LeBron James switched over to a healthier diet, and Carmelo Anthony followed suit, and they did this to shape up for the season. So it remains to be seen how much their performance will be impacted, but I think it's clear from how much they're talking about how it makes them feel and their injury recovery and how they're going to extend their careers that they're really into this, and it's interesting to watch the transformation.
I think if you just take out our presentation mode, yeah, leave it there.
Is that better? Okay, so here's an example of what Dr. Shanahan was feeding the Lakers for a typical day. For breakfast, they had eggs cooked in butter with sliced avocado. For lunch, they might have salad with some grilled tuna, walnuts, avocado, and olive oil dressing. Dinner might be some grilled meat like lamb with lots of sauce, presumably with some butter in it, heaping helpings of vegetables or salad, and fresh fruit dessert. So this isn't too extreme or doesn't really feel restrictive. It's just nourishing, good food, and they were feeling a difference. The Lakers actually are now exclusively catered by Whole Foods. So instead of showing up to an event and having tables full of chips and pizza, they actually have organic produce and grass-fed meats and things, cheeses and things like that. So it's really cool. Okay, so is this just the NBA that we're talking about? No, it is across many sports, as you can see here. We've got rowers, soccer players, triathletes, and Apollo Ono is a good story. He was coming back for the last Winter Olympics. That was his third Olympics, and not a lot of athletes get to come back for a third Olympics. So that in and of itself was pretty amazing. He took his training super seriously, and for several months before the Olympics, he was in the gym every day. He had a very strict regimen. He ate only fish, vegetables, brown rice, and healthy fats. He was really big about that. And not only did he compete in his third Olympics, but he took home more gold medals and became the most decorated winter athlete we have in America. So, you think of him, you always think of the Subway commercials, but he was not eating Subway sandwiches before the Olympics, let me tell you. So, wait a minute, you guys are probably thinking, what about all the athletes that are vegan and vegetarian and are doing awesome things as well? Well, they might seem like they're on the completely other end of a spectrum here, but we do have lots of athletes that are thriving on vegan and vegetarian diets, and they're more than happy to tell you about it. Runners, there's lots of runners in that camp. There's triathletes. There's even some bodybuilders. This guy, Robert Cheek, I actually never heard of him before, but it's kind of amazing that you can look like that eating tofu and broccoli. Here's a sample menu of triathlete ritual. You'll see he has lots of hemp protein. He's getting brown rice, more protein from beans, fat from coconut and avocado and things like that. Right?
I thought it was me.
On a whole another level, we have Spokane ultra runner Bill Meisner. He's retired now, but my favorite quote I read about him was that he had logged more miles than Madonna's bed springs. And he did this on a plant-based diet, which is awesome. He looks great, and at 72 to still be running ultramarathons and winning them, that's winning his age group. There's something to be said for that. So by now you're probably totally confused. Like, am I promoting all vegetables, all plant-based diets, or am I telling you to eat more protein and fat? Whatever happened to the balanced diet? Well, I think there's a big spectrum, and looking at these different athletes doing well shows us that you can do well. Different people do well on different diets. If you look back at what our ancestors ate, way back, Eskimos, for example, didn't have access to fresh food all year round. So they adapted to thrive on seal fat and dried meats and things like that. Whereas in the Amazon, they maybe hunted a little bit, but they also were able to eat plant materials like berries and leaves and roots and things like that. So today, very few people are on the absolute ends of those spectrums. We're all somewhere here in the middle. And finding your ideal balance is really the trick. And it's a factor of not only your genetic history and your variation, but also some modern factors like your activity level and stress level that you have to be taking into consideration. So my point is here, when you read an article about, so-and-so's on the paleo diet, so it must be awesome, so I should do it too. Well, you could try it out, but you're probably going to end up tweaking it a little bit to make it work for you. This map is grossly oversimplified, but it kind of shows what I'm trying to talk about of people adapting to different diets and different climates over time. Way on the north and the south, there's more of a tendency towards protein types, not an absolute. You can see at the bottom, there's still a 60-40 balance. Whereas more towards the equator, they relied historically a little bit more on the plant matter, and that's just how it was. Now today, very few of us can point to where our ancestors came from exactly because there's, lots of traveling and mixing around in the last hundreds of years, and that's okay. It just shows you why. I think it just explains why there is that difference of some people do well on this kind of diet and other people do well on a different kind of diet, and that's okay. Totally okay. Now, if this sounds interesting to you and you want to learn a little bit more about it, these are some books that I would recommend you checking out. The library has them all. You can buy them on Amazon. Has anybody heard about Weston A. Price? You guys know about him? He was a dentist. He wrote the third one here. And he was interested in why he saw so much decay in the patients he was seeing. It didn't seem natural. So he decided to travel around, and he looked at all these indigenous tribes, and he realized that people that were still eating a native diet that was appropriate for their culture and that their ancestors had eaten, they didn't need braces. They had plenty of room in their mouth. They weren't getting cavities. They were actually having really healthy teeth. And he postulated that was because of their diet. And since then, there's been tons of researchers in this camp, like looking at different diets and how that can impact your health. And there was a Mayo study clinic a few years ago that looked at people still eating a native diet, and they showed no matter what end of the spectrum you were on, they were still getting 2 to 10 times the RDA's recommended levels of vitamins and minerals. So even if they were eating seal fat or potatoes, they were meeting their requirements, which is really cool. Now, I've talked about a lot of different athletes and different theories on why we can be at either end of the spectrum, but what can we take away from this? Well, for one thing, everybody's agreeing that real food lowers inflammation. Story after story is whether you switch to high-fat, high-protein, or more of a plant-based diet, just getting onto real food and getting away from the processed foods and sugars is showing that their joints are feeling better, they're recovering from injuries better, and it's extending athletic careers. I mean, we all know when you're 18 and you're 24, you can get away with a heck of a lot when it comes to diet. But when you're getting up there, you need to take better care of your body, and that includes food and rest. Sorry, Scott. It also shows there's not one right answer for everybody. Every body is different, and we all need different ratios of fat to protein to carbohydrate, and that's just trial and error, seeing how you feel. And it's also okay that our needs change over time. Our circumstances change over time, and our bodies change over time. So what worked for you in your 20s might not work for you anymore when you're 40, and that's totally okay. I think there's a lot of guilt associated with changing your diet because it's such a big part of our lives. It can become part of your identity to be vegetarian or to be carnivore or whatever you want to be. And then to have to go out and change that 10 years later can be hard. But if we recognize that our needs change as we change sports or change our age, then it makes it more okay to go ahead and experiment. And finally, the nutrition industry is exactly that. It's an industry. Their goal is to sell you convenient, cheap to make drinks and goos and bars. And there's certainly a place for all those products. If a goo gets you through a race, then more power to you. But I don't know anybody that has a high fructose corn syrup deficiency. And toss me one of those. Trey actually sells some pocket fuels here that I like a lot better than goos because they have real food ingredients. I don't know if you can see that. And if you think about it, after a workout, what does a Gatorade give you that a banana wouldn't? Okay. So we talked about some changes you might want to make. How do you know if your diet's working for you? Maybe it's working for you perfectly fine and you have no interest in changing. While that might be the case if you're sleeping through the night and waking well rested, you have energy all day, and you're recovering from your workouts easily. Another one is if you have a number 4 on the Bristol stool chart. Has anybody heard of the Bristol stool chart?
You're interested now.
I know, everybody loves poop. I was quite impressed that they sell these coffee mugs to have a handy reference at your breakfast table. You can just Google it, so I don't have to go into too much detail here, but there's basically a chart, and you want to be right in the middle. And if you're straying too far from that on a regular basis, then you have something to think about, because that is a reflection of what's going on in your digestive tract, and we want that to be healthy, right? Another big signal is your skin. If you want your skin to be clear and soft and healthy, oh yes, you have beautiful skin, right? Pasty's okay, especially here in Seattle. And that's one of your biggest organs, and it's your body's detoxification system. So if you don't have good skin, that's a sign that your body is trying to get rid of something and that your diet might not be working for you. So how else do you know it's time for a change? If you're having a mid-afternoon slump every day, if you're not really recovering from injuries the way you used to or the way you think you should be, if you feel cold all the time, or if you're one of those people that has to have their coffee every morning, yeah. If you're not getting great sleep, if you're waking up in the middle of the night or you have trouble going to sleep, if you have food cravings for sugar or salt and things like that, or if you're feeling hangry between meals, get jittery and grumpy between meals, those are all signs that you might want to play around and tweak your diet a little bit, that maybe it's time for a change. I don't know anybody that gets hangry. And frankly, if these things have been going on for you for a while, they're actually disrupting your life, then not only is it a good idea to start tinkering with some diet changes, but working with somebody who can run some labs for you and determine if your body is starting to wear out and has some underlying malfunctions might also be a good idea. So what are we talking about in terms of overlap on these two extremes? Like what is not controversial at all? Well, eating a colorful, varied diet. You've all heard that. You're probably like, oh my God, Erin, shut up. Everybody recommends this because it's the best way to get your high micronutrients. Also, if you can afford it, organic foods have been shown over and over again in hundreds of studies to have significantly higher micronutrient content. So you're getting more for your money and getting more for your calories. We're talking like 40 to 50% more vitamins in organic tomato versus a regular tomato. Finally, just minimizing packaged foods and limiting empty calories. Those, aren't really serving you and everybody. Oh yeah. Hey, beer is a meal in a bottle, so we won't talk about that.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about making some changes, one suggestion is to think about doing major changes in the off season, unless you're having some of those big signs that you need to make a change right now, like you're freezing cold all the time. Then most pro athletes wait till they're off season, and don't do any major shifts right before a big race or something like that. And the next thing to make it easier for you is to start with one meal at a time. So first work on improving your breakfast. For a week or two, try to eat something really healthy for breakfast, and then start to tackle your dinner, or then start to tackle your lunch. Another thing I can tell you from personal experience is it's much easier to start by bringing in the good stuff before you start eliminating the bad stuff. For example, a few years ago, I wanted to eat more fruits and vegetables, so I gave myself a goal of eating 7 fruits and vegetables a day. I was so busy eating carrots and bananas and apples that I didn't have time or room to eat popcorn and chips anymore. It kind of is it kind of weeds itself out once you start eating the good stuff. So let's say you are clear on the kind of diet you want to be eating, but you don't really know how to execute it. I know that runners spend all their free time running, and they don't necessarily want to spend it in the kitchen, and that's okay. I've got a couple strategies to help you out there. First one is to take it with you. So when I gave up wheat a couple of years ago, that pretty much nixed the sandwiches, but even if you're just trying to lower the carbs a little bit, there's a lot of ways to make what's essentially a sandwich and take it with you without the bread or the bun. And the first way I like to do that is to take some high-quality deli meat, so try to buy something without all the fillers and the crap in it, at least, but a piece of roast beef or something like that, and then take some thinly sliced carrots, raw zucchini is really good, cucumbers, maybe a little steamed asparagus, and wrap it up. And then you can bring along a little mustard to dip it in, or some barbecue sauce or something like that. The next one is to play with some rice paper. The spring rolls that they have at Thai restaurants? Those are quite easy to make and portable. So all you do is buy the rice paper sheets at they even have them at Fred Meyer, really. And they take 30 seconds to soften up in hot water, and then you can wrap that around vegetables, tofu, chicken, whatever floats your boat. And then lettuce wraps, you can kind of do the same thing as the first one, where you just wrap it around stuff. Something I see people at work doing all the time is they buy a tub of chicken salad at Costco, and then they buy a head of Boston lettuce, and then they've got a really easy and healthy lunch at work, where they just scoop out some chicken salad, plop it in the lettuce, and then eat it like a little sandwich. Now, my next tip is to take advantage of some muffin tins, because that makes perfect portable little snack. And eggs are super versatile. You can make little egg quiches, basically, and put all kinds of different vegetables on this. You can do like tomato basil, you could do broccoli and ham, you could do cheese and bacon and mushroom, pretty much whatever you want. I actually had some recipes printed out for our in-person attendees, but since you guys weren't able to make it, I'll send you a link to my blog where I have all these recipes. And yeah, the egg muffins are on there. I've got a recipe here with broccoli, onion, cremini mushrooms, and bell pepper. And I recommend making a whole bunch of these, because you can keep them in the fridge for several days and then just grab them for an easy breakfast on the run. Now, meatballs are a paleo favorite. I know some of you on the vegetarian front might not appreciate that.
Vegetarian.
You're not vegetarian?
Meatballs.
Okay. I mean, you can have endless combinations with this too. You can do turkey or beef or buffalo for that matter. You can put different kinds of vegetables like bell peppers and different herbs like parsley and cilantro. So really, you could have a different kind of meatball every day of every week for a year and not get bored with that. So the other thing I like about making meatballs is to prep them and then put them in the freezer on a tray, and then once they're frozen, put them in a bag. And that way, if I'm really busy and I come home late, all I have to do is plop a couple on a pan and stick it in the oven, and I've got dinner ready. Let's see, lasagna cups, you can make it in a muffin pan. I had a little picture of that right up here. You can imagine, you can make that with noodles or wonton wrappers, and that makes it a little bit more portable. Let's see. Oops. Okay, and then let's do the obvious. Why not make muffins with your muffins? You can do gluten-free muffins are one of the best, most convincing gluten-free things you can possibly do, and you can healthy them up with some sweet potato or bananas or apples and things like that. So my next trick is to kill two birds with one stone. That's what this picture is for. And you do that by making a big batch of something and freezing at least half of it. And another recipe I have on here and that I can post for you guys is sweet potato burritos. I usually would make at least 8 of those at a time, if not more. And I'll read off here what's in them. I do some steamed sweet potato and some frozen corn and beans, some spinach, onion, and then optionally, if you're not vegetarian, you could throw in some diced chicken or chorizo sausage. Mushrooms and bell pepper are great, of course some cheese. And all you do is get an assembly line going and make several of these, wrap it in foil, stick it in the freezer, and then when you are heading to work, you just throw it straight from the freezer in your bag. You get to work, put it in the fridge, and then when lunchtime comes around, it's half thawed out already, and it just takes a couple of minutes in the microwave to warm up. Question?
I have it on good authority. Those are delicious.
Oh, I thank you. Maybe I should. Maybe I owe you a batch. Okay. Well, another one of Scott's favorite are ravioli and lasagna bakes. These are not excellent for the gluten-free crowd, but if you're just getting started and trying to make some more homemade food instead of eating packaged food, there's nothing wrong with this. The ravioli bakes are so easy. I shouldn't even tell Scott how easy these are. You get a package of ravioli from like Costco or something, and then you can make a homemade sauce, tomato sauce, or I make a butternut squash sauce that I love, and it adds a lot of nutrients. And then you layer that in, and then you can put that in a Pyrex container, put a lid on it, and keep it in the freezer until you again come home late and you need something quick, or you leave your dear boyfriend alone for a week.
He doesn't know how to cook anything.
And he doesn't know how to cook anything.
We had a text message question about beer.
Yes.
What are your recommendations on gluten-free beer?
Oh, yes. Well, public service announcement about gluten-free beer. Interrupting the healthy food broadcast. I really like a mission. I know it's simple, but that's good. Harvester from Portland. You can't get it all over the country, but here in the Northwest you can get it pretty easily. And Harvester actually tastes like real beer, so that's awesome. And Greens from Belgium isn't bad. They have it a lot of restaurants around here, and that's probably my third favorite. Good? Oh yeah, that was a text question, sorry. Okay, my next thing that I like to make lots and freeze this is a big genre, soups, stews, and chilies. You could do white bean chili or red chilies. There's endless kinds of soup, obviously, but there's really no reason not to make more. You're already cooking up a batch, so definitely freeze some. The best way to do that is in mason jars, because then you can pull it right out and heat it up right in the mason jar. Next one on here is my favorite buffalo chicken bake. So all this is chicken thighs or breast meat, either way, and sweet potatoes, onions, bacon, lots of bacon, and barbecue sauce. And you can mix this up in advance and bake it later. So again, you could freeze it. You could just keep it in the fridge so you're ready to bake it, but it holds well. And then when you do bake it and pull it out, all you want to do is add some freshness with maybe some chopped celery or green onions, things like that. Next one is another paleo favorite, the shepherd's pie, that you can do many variations on with, we think of it typically has potatoes on top. Well, why not do sweet potatoes or cauliflower on top? And then inside you could mix up and have, one time you can have beef, one time you can add, elk, and then hide different vegetables in there like sweet potatoes and zucchini and things like that. So there's lots of variety you can do, and this freezes perfectly. So definitely make a couple of those. And then quiche actually makes freezes pretty well, and that's easy to make too, especially if you buy a crust or you're making crust anyway. Just make 2 and then freeze one. Preachy.
That's so cliche.
So the third tip for you is to take advantage of your slow cooker. I totally love my slow cooker, and one of the best things for a busy person is that you can prep it the night before, and you can have maybe one of your kids put it in your kids can take it out when they get home from school and turn it on. You could run it overnight and get it out in the morning. You could set it when you head out for your long trail run, and when you come back, it's ready to go. And there's just lots of different things you can make in it. So for example, here's just a few of my favorites in different categories. You can use really economical cuts of meat and make them tender. So for example, oxtail and mushrooms is one of my favorite combos, or a Greek-style leg of lamb with some oregano and lemon works really well. And then as far as stews and chilies, I love to do a white bean chicken chili with some chili verdes in there, and basic chicken, veggie, and rice stew if you're just throwing stuff together from the fridge in the pantry. That's fine. For our vegetarians out there, Cuban beans work really well, and then you can serve that over some rice. Maybe you make a spicy 3-bean and corn chili. And okay, for tacos, so you can make a big batch of barbacoa or pulled pork or something like that, and then for the rest of the week you can make tacos or nachos or whatever else you want to vary it up. And did you know you could make steel-cut oats in the crock pot? No. Steel-cut oats are perfect for the crock pot, and I love them even more because you can freeze them. So you could make 8 or 10 portions of these things and freeze it in individual portions, and that way when you need a quick breakfast or even a lunch to take to work, you can again pull that out of the freezer and you're ready to go. Veggies, I've seen lots of recipes for curried veggies. It seems like a popular thing to do with the slow cooker, and I found a pretty cool recipe for white bean, artichoke, and chard ragu. I'm excited to try that one. So to wrap things up and tie everything together, we talked about how athletes in all kinds of different sports are switching to whole food diets, and they're talking loud and proud about how it's lowering their inflammation and improving their recovery time. We talked about how the macronutrient ratio, so your protein, carbohydrate, and fat ratio, is very personal, and it's going to take some trial and error to figure out. But what's universal, on the other hand, is that micronutrient-rich diet is going to help you with your recovery and performance. And then to incorporate these whole foods into your busy lifestyle, we talked about how ways to take it with you, making things portable in wraps or bite-sized portions, and to always make extra and freeze some, and then to take advantage of that slow cooker you've got. If all of this still sounds totally overwhelming. That's why I offer a 30-day menu jumpstart. And what that consists of is a 2-part consultation. In the first meeting, we get together and we talk about your diet needs. Are you looking for a change? Are you happy where you're at? What food allergies do you have or special considerations? What nights of the week can you not cook because you're busy with book club or soccer practice or whatever? And what days do you like to cook? So taking all of that into consideration, I go back and do my thing, which is to look through lots of recipes and tweak some and plan, and got a little test. I love to plan, so this is my thing totally. And I'll come back to you in the second meeting, and we'll look over a 30-day personalized meal plan just for you, and talk about how you can implement it and if we need to tweak it if necessary. And I'm offering a bonus today for calling in. If you schedule by Friday, if you email me and we set up an appointment, so you don't have to have the appointment by Friday, but you need to contact me by Friday, I'll throw in shopping lists for all these menu plan that we're going to talk about, and then I'll also give you 20% off, which is great discount, and I'm only offering that to our special uphill running viewers.
Uphill running!
So thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you so much, Trey, for having me. This is what makes uphill running great, these events that bring our community together and help us share information. So thank you again, and do you have any final words?
Oh, it's final
Say
words.
goodbye.
Oh, it's final words. Wanted to see us. Yeah, thanks so much, Erin, for giving us a great presentation on food and all the things that I'm probably doing wrong in my diet. I absolutely look forward to trying a 30-day jumpstart menu. I know I need it, especially as the winter's coming on. I have a broken toe, so I won't be running very much, which means I'm going to need to really watch my diet. We had quite a few different viewers ask some great questions about beer, which is awesome anyways. But you did give some great advice on things we should look out for as we are eating and things like that. So thank you very much. We will have all of this information posted on Uphill Running's blog. You can get Erin's contact info through us, or you can also find it on the website. We'll have it posted as soon as we can. And look forward to other events that we have in store. And you can always attend in person or online. Now that we figured out, if you took 3 computers, a microphone, and 4.5 hours of dedicated trial and error to get
4
this.
computers and a phone.
Yeah.
That's right, and a phone. That's right, 4 computers. Yeah. So we're learning. But thank you so much, and we welcome all of this. If anybody else out there has something they'd like to present or they have any questions, feel free to email us. Again, we'll post Erin's email address one last time. Again, you can get it right there. It's Erin at engineeringgradients.com. What does that say? There's only one G. Radiance.com. You can read it. We'll have it posted. It'll be a clickable link. We know how to do that stuff without 4 computers and a microphone. Other than that, thank you so much for attending and viewing, and we really appreciate it. Like I said, we'll post this on the website, so if you missed any of it, you can go back through and watch all of it.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.